this. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to rumble?
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you from Model Railroading Live, and the show is called Who is Big Bill Talking to? But before we start, we just want to give I guess what you'd say, a condolences to Chris Rude. Chris Rude's father has passed away, and we here at Model Railroading Live want to extend our condolences to the Rude family, to Chris and his family, and regards to the passing of his father. And I just want to say how deeply sorry we are and keeping you guys in our prayers and thoughts as you go through this time of mourning. Once again, Chris, please accept our heartfelt condolences for what has happened. And hope everything works out. With that said, this is Big Bill. Who's Big Bill talking to? It's September 25th, 2019, and we're going into this second season here of Who's Big Bill talking to, and we hope to have next week, next month actually, we're going to have Nick Massey from It's That Laser Art. Is that correct, John? Imagine that laser art. I'm doing this on purpose. I'm not. Trust me when I tell you. Uh, into buying some stuff from me. I heard that against me and jack the price up and stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna have Nick Massey on next month, and on Who's Big Bill talking to, talking about his business and how he's into model railroading, how he got into it, and the stuff that he does. And tomorrow night's Thursday, as that usually follows Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And so tomorrow night's going to be Johnny's Train Room. And you guys are more than welcome to show up at the general store down there and sit in, play some checkers, and talk some railroad. You can actually be on the show as we are right here. He'll have a link where you can come in if you have anything you're working on, or you got into a bit of a problem. We can most definitely give you a hand there. If we can't, someone in the community always can, because someone always knows something a little bit more than what we do, which is in most cases. A lot of people know a lot more than I do. I know nothing. But so Johnny's Train Talk show will be tomorrow night. That will be at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, we don't get into the 9 p.m. Central Time thing anymore. We just say 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's when Johnny will be on, and he'll be presenting down at the general store. John, pretty soon we're going to be having the Hatta apple cider, right? Yeah, we're going to be bringing that drink out. Yeah, it cools out, cools off. Well, tonight's guest is a good friend of ours, a good friend of mine, a good friend to the Model Railroading Live show when we were YouTube model builders, Phil Wyman. And Phil is with us tonight, and we're going to talk about a few areas. We're going to talk about a few things with Phil. Phil used to have the Michigan Central Railroad, MC Square, and recently some physical changes, location demographic wise, has happened, and Phil moved, and Phil had to take his layout down. So I know everybody right now is working on something. They stopped when they heard that. They were like, "Wait, someone took their layout down?"
Yeah, the whole thing.
The whole thing. So what Phil? What precipitated this move? This was you moved obviously.
Yes, we moved. What facilitated it? Well, we've lost some parents. My wife's lost both her parents, and I've lost my father. And this has all happened over about a 3-year period.
Right.
Well, I had one side of a 12 by 10 L-shaped double-sided layout. I had one side done, and the other side was supposed to be the Dow Chemical Company here in Midland, Michigan. And I started on it, and the mother-in-law got sick, and the wife's made a comment about, I might have to move back to Grand Rapids. So I stopped. And I just, kept building structures, but I just actually quit working on the layout.
Right.
And her mom unexpectedly, went into hospice and passed. So we're not moving.
Right.
And so I worked on a little bit more, and I got it burned out a little bit. I kind of picked up another hobby. Life happens. So we decide that we're going to stay where we were at until my mother passes on, because she moved back up here after my dad passed from up here from Florida. And we decided that. So I went back, and man, I started working. I ripped up some track and reconfigured and laid down and buried track in concrete. Well, it wasn't really concrete, it was smooth it and foam core board. But I got that all done, and I was getting ready to start building a new custom big structure on the one end. And my wife's like, I want to move. I inherited this money, and I don't want to, crap it away. We're paying for rent for the last, 3-5 years, something like that. I wanted to go for her home. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. So I quit working, and we found a place, and the basement was beautiful, man. I was going to have 60-foot runs on 2 sides. I was like, oh man, yes. I mean, it had a separate room with a dryer hookup for the airbrush to pipe all the fumes outside. It was perfect, man. And the upstairs was nice. And it was this 1959 design. It had a very low pitched roof and some the windows in the front foyer were like on angles. There was like a panel and a panel and another panel, almost like teeth. This real like futuristic 60s type style house.
Right.
So we had the house inspected, and there was just too many things that I couldn't do anymore. Like climb up on the roof and fix the cap vents and the chimney, and the foundation had a crack in it, and it had a workshop in the back of the garage. So we retracted our offer on that, and we moved into the house that we're in now. And I have an apartment above our garage that's basically a separate rental unit.
Right.
It has a shower, a full bathroom, full kitchen, living room, and bedroom in it. And it's got it's got a car of the 2-car garage. It's got a whole stall and its own entrance going up to the top. And we're like, okay, yeah, we could rent that out. Or I'm like thinking, I could maybe put my train up there, but I really don't want to mess with the garage in wintertime here in Michigan, even if it had its own heater up there or not. And
so you're thinking about using that upstairs as a train room?
I was, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess we're of the belief that you help your fellow man out, and we have a young woman that's living there right now that was abused by her fiance.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And she needed a place to basically hide out. So we offered her this. We happen to know her, and she's staying there for a month. And Downstairs, there's another large room in the basement of our house because we went from a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, full basement, a duplex, half of a, and now we're in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and I call it a 3-story because you got the full basement and you've got the full first floor and the second floor. But after having my own railroad for so long and my wife having to set up her sewing machine in the living room and do her craft someplace else, I opted to say, yes, you could have one of the bedrooms as your sewing room. We've got one daughter that's off to college and a son that's here part of the time. Eventually, when there's no children, I'll probably take over one of those rooms to build my layout. So right now I have a room it's like 15 foot by 12 foot. But it's got shelving and a big workbench in it. And I really just don't have any room to put. I could do a small switching layout, like a 2x8 small switching layout. So if I do something in my room, that's what I may go with. I also, not to offend anybody, but I may actually go with a small in-scale layout because it looks bigger. I'm not bashing it. Some of my best friends in the community are in-scalers, and they're scale. It's just that when you're legally blind like myself, there's really small wheels on an in-scale, thing. And I definitely ain't going to do no installation or anything like that. So I just, I may go out and buy one of them little Bachman sets that you get at Hobby Lobby for $150.
Interruption connection, trying to reconnect.
And, small DC system. And, well, I've got my DC system. I don't need a small set, but just a cheap end scale Bachman slap down the track.
Now you've really insulted all the end scalers.
Well, there's other kinds other than Bachman. I mean, everybody. I'm not talking about switching out and the best couplers and a loop-de-loop and to model. Or I'll do one in HO because I have everything, Because when I tore down my layout, when I first built it, it was built into 2 foot by 4 foot module sections. And it came apart really easy, unplugged, all that. But boy, when I first built it, I should have cut the rails and not went just across each section and figured, I'll just cut them when
Connection
the time comes. Because
when
I did that,
you should have because you got interrupted. You froze there. You should have cut what?
I should have cut the rails.
At
each system. When I built it, I didn't. I just laid across it.
Oh, okay. So
then when I cut the rails, it lifted out of the ballast.
Right.
Then when we had movers moved, they were right on the edge and they kind of caught it and they kind of peeled up. And if I wanted to put a bunch of work in it, I could salvage it, but
yeah,
I want to build a new one.
Yeah,
I like building. I want to build a new one. Yeah.
Yeah. He says, "Did I hear you right? End scale. You can't see now. I can hear the cursing and swearing already." He says.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, for those that are meeting Phil for the first time, Phil has this. Phil, why don't you explain it?
Why do I explain it? Okay. I'm legally blind, and most people that had diabetes get what they call retinopathy, which is a black spot that starts in the center of your eye, and it's a dead zone. You can't see it, and that slowly grows to where you eventually just go totally blind. Because I'm me, and I'm special. I have a white light. Like when somebody takes a flash and you get those white lights, that's what I have in the center of my eye. And it's actually not in the dead center. I have 3 spots in my right eye, and my left eye has 4. And it's caused by the diabetes they're assuming that I had. And you're saying had.
Yeah.
I had kidney failure and was on dialysis for 2 years, and then I got a kidney transplant. At the same time, they gave me a pancreas from the person that unfortunately passed. So I'm no longer a diabetic, but I suffer from all the problems of somebody who's had diabetes for 28 years. So I have dead spots in my eyes, except for them being white, or instead of them being black, they're white.
Right.
And I have 2200 vision in my right eye and 2400 vision in my left eye. And what that means is that when you go to the doctor and you look at that eye chart and they throw it up on the wall and it's a set distance away, that's supposed to represent it's either 20 feet or 100 feet, the size. And anyways, what you would see at 200 feet would be the same. Everything I see is blurry unless I get it right, like this far away from my face. So I do a lot of modeling with,
And yet,
and I move real slow.
right. And here we are sitting down in front of your workbench with a whole bunch of paints behind you, and I still see you're doing modeling. And by the way, anybody who's ever seen Phil's modeling, Phil does a really, really excellent job of modeling. And though he may not think
Thank
he
you.
does, but he does. And he's very meticulous and very careful of what he's doing and how he does it. As he says, it takes a little bit longer, but he does it anyway, and he, gets it done. So that's we got these little flies. But anyway, how is that? And because we had a show on. I don't know if you caught it with Mr. Baronic in regards to you know estate sales and men and who've passed away with their layouts intact, and families didn't want them and anything. But on your
Right.
situation, how does it? I mean, was it? I mean, here you built the layout with your disability, and now now you tore it down, obviously for a better opportunity which came along, which you can't fault, and say, hey, from
Right.
owning, that's a no-brainer. Let's do it. But from tearing it down, did it make you? Was it disheartening, or was it like hopeful? Maybe something better on the on the horizon.
I found that during the process of cleaning everything out from underneath, because it was all just a storage area for all the train stuff,
Sure.
and finding stuff that was like, oh wow, I forgot I bought this. This is cool. It's like I'll have to use that maybe in the new layout, And then I
Yeah.
found some other stuff that was like, why did you ever buy this crap? Set that aside. And it was kind of inspiring, but like I said, when I pulled all the bolts out and unplugged it and started to cut those rails, when it came time to actually take that first chunk off, I was like, this really stinks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no railroad anymore.
Right.
And I tore it all down, and I remember my son coming over, and he walked downstairs in the basement, and he's like, whoa, is this different? That took up a lot of room. I never realized it took up so much room. And I'm like, yeah, there's a big, wide open space. And then, of course, that space just got filled up with plastic totes and boxes, stuff just from the basement getting packed up and ready to move.
Yeah.
So it was a good thing that I tore the layout down so I had room to put the stuff that I was going to move.
Yeah. Yeah. I always come.
Yeah.
Dan Ward has a question. Dan TRP. He says he wants to know what are the paints on the first 3 racks, starting from the top.
Oh, well, let's see. What are you seeing? If I do this, okay, not that high. Okay. These 2 racks here, these are all Vallejo acrylic paints. Everything on this shelf is an acrylic paint. The very up top 2 are all Model Flex railroad colors. They're made by Badger. They're an airbrush ready, and you can brush paint them. Paint, I would highly recommend them. I like them. And then I have a few Tamiyas. They were specific colors that I bought. And then all these Vallejos that I have here, then these are just like craft paints down here. Quite a glare coming off of that. Yeah. This all here is just craft paints. And the other hobby that I picked up was when I was younger, I played Dungeons and Dragons. And for some crazy reason, it has come back with a storm. And so me and my wife, we got involved with it, and we actually started a Facebook group for our local community, and I have people coming into my home and playing every other week, and then we have a couple games during that week going on. It's fun, and a lot of these paints I use for painting like little miniatures. This is a polar bear that I'm working on. They're little monsters. It's a fantasy set role playing game. If nobody knows what Dungeons and Dragons is, there's a Twitch streaming people that got real famous, and they raised like $10 million in a week's time for a cartoon. Yeah, I mean the whole world. There's famous actors have come out and said, "Oh, I play D&D," so it's like everybody wants to learn how to play D&D these days, except for model railroaders because we model railroad, but
play with trains. Dan Ward replied, he says, I didn't realize that the paint rack was that tall. And Dale, PRR guy base says, love your paint rack.
Thank you. I built it myself. It's got these little dividers, can slide in and out and be moved up. It's like these are washes, and these are inks, and these are like all metallics, and then these are like through the color of the rainbow, and on up. To me, they're a tool. I mean, I have rattle cans too. I don't just use an airbrush.
Yeah.
A lot of model buildings, it's actually quicker to use a rattle can. The Rust-Oleum, I think, is who makes it. The camouflage colors work really good for buildings. I've got those. And
White Northern Star Railroad Lines wants to know, Phil, have you looked at War Games website for painting?
War Games? Yeah, I've seen it. It's expensive. It's just like our hobby. It's really expensive.
Of course.
And they're just little plastic figures. You know, it's like the things that people, you know, when you get to our age, we don't downhill ski anymore because I don't particularly care to want to break a hip. You
Yeah.
know,
Or,
so
or rollerblading. Or,
right, yeah, yeah. You know, I still ride a bike occasionally,
yeah.
but it's like walk the dog and climb stairs.
Okay. Andy Crawford says everyone needs a hobby, MRR, D&D, but a man's got to have something to do. Eric Call, IMRRO, com, D&D have the original or had Red Dragon box set with the blue manual, the original PHDMG, M&M, and DMD, but all lost to history. Apparently, you had that. Is that exactly what you're saying, Eric? John Dilly, Andy, isn't it a woman's job to keep busy? LOL. Okay, John, we'll begin address all the letters to John Dilly at you know.
Okay.
But Andy
Yeah.
spent all my effort trying to keep her from doing so, John, and sometimes I succeed. Okay.
Right.
But now that you've made this move, and obviously the gut wrenching pain tearing of the heart and soul of taking the layout down, which I'm sure was not as dramatic as I just made it out to be, but I'm sure it had to be a little bit disappointing.
It was. It
Going
was.
forward, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was 3 years of hard
Sure,
work.
sure.
You know, I thank you for the compliment. That makes me feel good because, yeah, I thought if anybody's
I
seen it, there's a Facebook page out there. It's called Marie Christine in or no, the Michigan Central Marie Christine Railroad. That's the official name of it. A wise man once told me that if you name your railroad after your wife, it's easier to spend money on it. It's easier for her to relinquish the hold of that mighty dollar for it to go towards a pair of, you know, wire bent grab-ons rather than plastic ones
yeah,
or no, they're the molded on plastic, you know.
yeah. I hear
Uh,
you.
so, you know, at first I told her it was called the Marie Christine.
Right.
But to all you guys on the old YouTube bodybuilders, it was the Michigan Central. And then a good friend of ours who passed away here a couple years back now, uh, he kind of gave me the idea of calling it the MC squared, and little design work, little stealing of images off of the internet, a little using the paint. Bang! I come up with a logo, and it's been called the MC squared ever since.
That good friend would be Jim Ross.
Yes, that would be Jim Ross. Yes.
And he is the box guy.
Yeah.
Jim Ross was a good friend. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Eric Hall says, answer to my question, yes, over the travels and moves, etc. He apparently had that. I think my brother smoked all my cool stuff. Okay, when I was out saving the world from communism on my Ronald World Tour. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Lit it up. Partied on, bro.
I can
Go
I
ahead.
can see a younger brother doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom threw all my Topps baseball cards out. You know, 60s, the 1960 baseball cards that I had. You know, she threw them all out because she was like, "Why do you want them? You're getting married. You don't need that stuff. And besides, I needed to clean the room out."
Right.
Okay, mom.
Mm-hmm.
And later to find out that somebody put his son through college after selling his 1969.
Yeah.
Ralph Ronzetti would like to know, in the meantime, Phil, how are you going to entertain yourself?
Um.
Wine, women, It used to be Wine Women. Now it's Beer the Old Lady in TV.
Yeah.
I know. John Wine Women in Fun, and not my reply was, yeah, it used to be that. Now it's Beer the Old Lady in TV.
Well, Ralph, I probably painting miniatures, playing this game, and actually getting back on the. I designed my first layout in Scarm, getting back on the old computer and regenerating a new track plan. Um, just to have a railroad. I mean, now that I've had one, I gotta have one. Or I've got buildings. I may just build kits and put them in totes like all the ones that came off my railroad. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 like 28-gallon rubber totes that have plastic models in them, wrapped in bubble wrap and packing peanuts and stuff that could be used on the new layout. And I've got model kits. Like I always wanted to build the ethanol plant that Walters had. And I've got all the kits except for one. I'm missing one. And it's the easiest one of them all. It's just a big rectangle and a rectangle. I mean, I could scratch build that, no problem.
Right, right.
But it's a little bigger than, I mean, that's all I could design. In a 2 foot by 8 foot would be just like the buildings. There being no, tracks long because you got, 100 long grain cars coming into a facility like that. So,
Eric Hall says Chuck, which is true. I've seen some of his videos. Chuck Baker went from model railroading to tabletop wargaming over the last few months. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Chuck Baker. He lives out there in Arizona, and he recently scrapped his channel and his everything. And he's when I asked him, inquired as to why he said he just got tired of model railroading.
mm-hmm.
Wasn't interesting. So I think he's involved with the wargaming with his grandson.
Yeah, I don't think I'm to the point to where I'm ready to give up on railroading. I enjoy them that I'm disabled and not working anymore. This is kind of my job. I mean, I used to come down and spend, 6 hours a day just sitting painting a boxcar and putting decals on and, doing a little airbrushing and back and forth. And that's my job. I get up in the morning and let the dog out, let the cat out, have a cup of coffee, come down here, flick the news on for background noise, and I do mean noise, and and just model away. So I've got a lot of boxcars that are undecorated that need to be painted and assembled, trucks and wheels on. So I mean, I could do that. I could model trees. I cast rock molds. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff I could do while I'm just chilling, waiting for the opportunity to get a larger room to strip those 2 foot by 4 foot modules, off and totally redo it.
Yeah, Eric Hall comes and says, I think it is a people thing too. He says you can meet more people wargaming than model railroading. We have multiple warplay gaming centers all over the valley, and the same is in Tucson.
Yeah. I mean, the city I live in's probably $30,000 to $35,000 average. And we have one wargaming store in town, a couple video game stores, and no model railroad stores. None.
Yeah.
The closest one is like an hour, almost an hour's drive, 45 minutes. I think is the closest one. And so you're kind of forced when you're in that situation. There's no brick and mortar hometown place to support. So why not buy it online?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much that's where a lot of my stuff come from, except for when my wife came from Grand Rapids, and they had a couple nice hobby stores over in Grand Rapids that carried everything, so there was a whole big train section. And so that's where some of these paints from. A lot of my Model Flex paints I got at Midwest Modelers, because I think Eric Hall knows the guy that owns Midwest Modelers.
Steve Atwell.
Yeah. And there's another guy out, JC's Rip Track, his channel's name. His name's like John something Carter or what. He does this. He won I think Eric Hall's contest down in Ron Marsh's down in Dirty Weathering contest. He started his own channel, and he's got some good pointers. And he actually came from a wargaming D&D background and got into model railroading. So he knows how to brush the small little paint stuff. It's there's I'm sure Ralph will agree with me that there's a paint for every specific purpose of what you're trying to do. Either whether it's a paint, a pigment, a powder. I mean, those are all tools.
Right.
Everything's a tool to be used to, complete what, a lot of people, when they model a prototype, where they want their cars to look exactly what's on the rail.
Connection interrupted.
And that's why you hear Ralph always preach about the best thing you can do is to get a prototype photo of what you're doing. Well, you can't always do that, but you can find a car that's just like it, build around the same time year and stuff. And then something that I've always wanted to ask somebody that does weathering, that uses prototypical photos. What do you do when you're modeling, let's say 1961, and your boxcar was made in 1940 or 58? It's only a 4-year-old car.
Well,
but the pictures you find today of a car from 1948 or 1958 is really rusty and stuff. So I'm assuming you just take that picture and not put as much junk into it. I guess that's what I would do.
Before Ralph
answer my own question.
Well, no, Ralph will answer the Q&A. But
okay.
Northern Star Railroad Line says, "You and I are alike, Phil. We're just glad. I'm glad if I'm alive 5 years from now." Amen. Ralph Renzetti says, "Do like I do, dabble in other venues, military planes, spacecraft, or cars." And Ralph Renzetti, Emma, wife says it's time to sit on the couch and watch Masked Singer with her. Good night, everyone. Good night, Eric Hall.
Okay.
So let's see. You and I have. Ralph Renzetti says, in reply to your question, he goes, "You and I have to talk."
Okay.
So that's gonna. Yeah. He's gonna try to talk you into his
I see Johnny
show
just whispered something in my ear.
Connection interrupted. Yeah.
Right.
Martin 1107 says, time for lunch here. Well, Martin, have a good lunch.
Wow.
Well, Martin's
Okay.
in Australia.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I've talked to Martin
And
before.
Al Ma was in for a while. Al Ma's leaving. Good night, Al.
Night, Al.
Oh, Al Ma we haven't seen for quite a while, so good to see you, Al.
Yeah,
And yeah, Martin 1107, he lives in Australia, and it's lunchtime there. So we know the world's not going to end because it's already tomorrow in Australia. So we're still,
that's good.
yeah, we're in good shape. We're in good shape
Right.
and stuff like that. But getting back to, do you think that eventually are you gonna go to a shelf kind of thing? I mean, do you have room to put like a shelf kind of switching layout up?
Um, yeah. I think if I tear down a shelf, if I was to pan the camera around here, I've got this big shelving that runs along this wall, and I could tear all that out and use that. And then there's the circuit breaker box in the back wall. Well, this big table sitting right here, it's like 10 foot long, and it's made out of like pipes. It's all screwed together with pipes, like a
Right,
T pipe and
right.
supports, and it's a heavy duty workbench.
With a
This,
big piece of butcher block on top, I would imagine.
yeah, yeah, it's thick. It's like
Yeah.
almost probably 2.5 to thick, and it's nice. I mean, the airbrush sets the box that I've made for my airbrush. It's the right height, but it's just too nasty. And I think that if I moved all these totes and I got that out of here, I could do probably 8 foot that way, and I could do 4 foot, at least 4 foot to 6 foot, and do an L shape or something. It's gonna be basically a shelf. Yeah, it's gonna have
Yeah.
to be a switching. It's
We, you
there's
know,
really no room to do a roundy round unless I do I mean, I could put a 4x8 in the center of this room, yank that bench out of here and I could do a 4x8, and I could spend $1,000 and get the Woodland Scenics type, kit, Grand River Rail Valley or whatever, and build that. And then with everything else I got, I could just make a city. I've got city buildings, and where the buildings go on that layout, I could make it, and it would be but all that is a roundy round. It doubles back on itself.
since this week is big in the news, excuse me, with the news with the climate change protests all over the week, you can get rid of that circuit breaker board and just electricity is like,
Way overrated, right?
yeah, absolutely. We can go with the candles, go back to, hurricane lamps.
Yeah.
Well, how would we run the railroad? See, there is in lies.
Well, we'd have to convert back to the old wind up,
Yes,
the old wind up, it up and
yes.
let it go, and it'd run around the track about 2 or 3 times. Then you'd have to wind it back up. I don't think I want to go back to them days.
Ralph Renzetti says, don't tear it out. Use the middle shelf. That way the temporary bench work is already done. And Copenhagen Killer. Your first time, is his first time here, John? Okay, first time here. Well, congratulations. Welcome to the crew. He says, I feel that being from a younger generation in this hobby really puts a hurting on us. Everything keeps getting more and more expensive. Brick and mortar hobby shops are hard to come by. You are so correct.
I've got an answer for you.
Copenhagen Killer. Listen,
Yes, I've got an answer for you. Don't fall for the hype. You don't have to have a $50 tank car, a $75 box car.
I
You
agree.
can go to a train swap meet. You can buy the cheap old Atherton blue boxes. You can repaint them. You can make them weather, learn how to weather. You can make them look really good. And once that train's running, you lose most of the detail. If you put all your work in the caboose, if you're running a caboose, and if you're young, that means you're going to be running modern day, and all you need is one car in the back with a flashing light. And your locomotive, you do a really good job on that, or you pay somebody to, and everything in between, nobody's going to pay attention to.
This is absolutely correct.
You know?
Point there, Mr. Killer. That sounded so not right, Mr. Killer. But anyway, Copenhagen. I like Copenhagen.
Copenhagen Killer.
Hell
Wow,
out of
that's
your
that's
ass.
that's that's a unique one. I like that.
I like
Uh,
it.
yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, there's many ways. I know the frustration that you may be having, Copenhagen Killer. It puts a hurt. It's not only on younger people, but on us older guys, because some of us older guys are retired and are on a fixed income. It's not like we can work OT, like we used to do,
Right.
make money for it, and stuff like that. Andy Crawford says, yes, indeed, Ralph. That's it. Phil, you could just shove a piece of hollow core door on that shelf and build some layout on it. Ralph says, build a time saver switching layout. Dave of BNSF and N Scale, basements get dark without electricity. Andy Crawford, yes, guys, clockwork mechanisms or live steam. Live steam in a basement, a little iffy, carbon monoxide poisoning. Andy says, Andy says, I disagree. Oh, that's a given. I keep the stuff out there, but these days you get to choose to buy nicer stuff, if you so choose, and learn to build fast track turnouts and DCC system. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I totally agree, man. If you've got
Yeah.
the cash and the time,
Sure.
go for it. But what I was saying to this guy was, don't get sold on the hype that that's what you got to have.
Well, Ken Amos Jr., B&O_51 says this hobby is what you make it. Buy used and make or scratch build. Too many complain about price because they think they have the most expensive of everything. And I would just like to highlight that question, that answer, is a fact that what happens to a lot of us is that, especially younger guys and some individual or whatever, you don't try. See, you want to buy it out of the package and you want to run it, and it's, oh, look at this, but you get like intimidated by the weathering, the scratch building that Ken Amos Jr. says here. You should attempt it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You mess it up. If it's weathering, you wash it out. Sometimes the best things come out of the worst mistakes. So if you don't venture into it and you don't try, you'll never find out.
Something that I would.
Copenhagen Killer says that was my gamer tag from Xbox. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Good. We're just trying to find the railroad that would belong to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course we do.
Not an argument. It's a friendly discussion.
Dave, BNSF scale, especially in N scale, hard to tell expensive from inexpensive when your train is rolling by. Very true. White of Northern Star, we all buy too much. And locomotives, better quality than quantity. This is true too. Andy Crawford, yes, Ken, the cheaper choices are out there, or you can always trade labor for cost and build it all like we used to when we were cheaper. And LOL, call me on it, Bill, I see.
Everything used to be cheaper.
Well,
I didn't go on out and buy these paints, some weekend and get a wild hair and go, hey, I want some paint. There's 3 years worth of buying paint on here. There's it was a little bit here, a little bit there,
of course.
using coupons.
Yeah. Michael's.
Yeah, use them
Turn off.
coupons.
Andy
Yeah.
says, I do agree with Phil's statement on cost. I just agree that this hobby is expensive. It can be, but it does not have to be.
No, it does not have to be. It does not have to be.
Yeah, Martin, in between bites of his salami sandwich, says, no, not a DCC plus plus. Get a Raspberry Sprague system. They are better. LOL. Oh, it's on Marty, Andy Crawford says. This time next week, we'll be in the big silver bird to the USA again. Marty, welcome to America, bro.
Cool.
Northern Ohio Railroad action. Hello at Model Railroading Live. Good evening. Good evening, sir. Ken Amos Jr. says, some mistakes actually end up being great outcomes too. Many try to make things perfect, and best models have imperfections.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% on that, Ken. I think that when we try to strive for perfection, it never comes. Perfection will only on the other side of glory when we all go to heaven and stuff. But for right now, we have to toil through our mistakes and things. And sometimes, like I said, the things I've done on the South Brooklyn Railroad that I thought, oh, this isn't going to work out, have actually turned out to be a mistake that was a great mistake. So, it's on the eye of the beholder.
Right.
Yeah, Ralph Renzetti, very true. He says, want and need determines if it is expensive.
True. I
Good evening.
a lot of times want overrides need.
Yes.
When it comes to model railroading. Yeah. But
the Closet Branch has a question. He wants to know, good evening, how long would those paint, let me see if I'm excuse me, Closet Branch, it's not you, it's me. Good evening. How long do those paints last without using it? Will it last forever?
They will not last forever, but they are a very fine pigment acrylic paint. And as long as you keep oxygen out of them, they'll last many years. I think these are like 15 milliliter bottles or something like that. There's really not that much paint in one of these bottles. 7 milliliters. Oh, you're gonna make me read the fine print, aren't you, Johnny?
Oh, the guy charged me for 12 meters. Well, Martin's coming to the U.S. while you're looking at that. He says we'll be in Long Beach, California for 2 days, and then a 25-day Singapore, and then a flight back to Oz.
I can't use those with headphones on. Oh, there's a sticker price tag over the damn thing on that bottle. Anyways.
Copenhagen Killer says, and finding friends in this hobby is hard to come by. Can't seem to find anyone close with an interest in model railroading. And the ones you do find have gone dark on the moon.
Well, I'll tell you what. come to the nightly free hangouts, meet people there. That's how I met Bill. That's how I met Johnny.
Right here, after the show,
Yeah,
to do a hangout, Copenhagen. Where do you live, Copenhagen?
yeah,
If you live in the U.S., you can. I mean, if you're on the other side of the world, it may be a little different time wise. But anyway,
right.
do a nightly after thing show where you can come on and chat for a little while. It's free. We don't charge anything.
Ask questions.
Just ask questions or anything and get involved. And sometimes it hooks you up with people. I've made a lot of really good friends, Phil being one of them, and Ralph Franzetti. He still owes me money from the last time I saw him up in Massachusetts. We won't talk about that.
Yeah.
He hates it when I bring that up. You know?
Personally, face to face, I've never actually met Bill face to face. It's always been on video chats or on the telephone. Now, but I have met Johnny face to face. I was going through Georgia and called him and said, "Hey, I'm close by," and he come down to a local hobby shop, and we met, talked, and met face to face. But yeah, there's people from all over the U.S. that I've met just going into nightly hangouts that
Yeah,
they
and all over
they
the
talk.
world. All
We
over the
talk
world.
model railroading. You ask a question. Hey, I got a problem with this DCC thing. Why isn't it working?
Yeah,
Usually, there's somebody on there that can help.
I just turned my mic on. Yeah, I mean, it was nice meeting you and Marie, and I mean, it did take 6 months to get the bruises off my legs from your sight cane. I didn't know if you was mad at me or just trying to find me. Look, Phil, I had the 7 right, but 17 milliliters.
17 milliliter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'll be
So there's not
quiet.
a lot of paint. These, for some reason, these are just your cheap, like Michael's, Hobby Lobby,
$1.47.
yeah, Joann's Fabric, dollar paints. I've had some of those. No kidding. I've had them for over 20 years
Yeah.
and grabbed them and shaken them back on up and, used one of these electric stirs to get the just a push button that spins, mixes your paint to get the pigment off the bottom, because as they separate. All your pigment goes to the bottom because that's the heaviest,
Sure.
and all the acrylic kind of falls in the mid-range, and then there's like some water on top and maybe some other things depending on the paint brand. And you just have to re-agitate it and get it all mixed back up, and they're good. Like I said, some of these paints I've had for a while.
Copenhagen Killer lives in West Virginia.
Oh, West Virginia. Yeah, he could.
And he lives in Kentucky.
Yeah. Big Bill's in New York. I'm in Michigan. Johnny's in Georgia.
So we're on the same thing there, East Coast. So
yeah.
But you come in there, Mr. Killer, and you can, in the after hour thing, model railroading live, model railroading, live. Come on, whereby.com/model railroading live. So it's whereby.com/model railroading live.com. That will bring you to exactly what you're looking at right here, but at least you'll be able to participate if you have a camera on your computer or a webcam. You can get a webcam or Amazon pretty cheap and give you a good picture. So it might be to your advantage to, and Ralph Renzetti is up there in Toronto, Canada, and Ken Amos Jr., B&O _51 is Carroll County, Maryland. So we have a few Maryland. We have a DC guy that lives in the proper city of District of Columbia. So we're all over. Al Mar's from Massachusetts. Dave is from Arizona. Dave Piper is from PA. White of Northern Star Railroad, lives in Minneapolis. And John Dilly from West Virginia, now in California. Andy Croker at www.modelrailroading.com also has all the info about upcoming shows, links to join the nightly chats, or to join on Thursday night broadcast show, as well as watching the live show there. Dale, PRR Guy Basis from Mississippi. Dan Ward, TRP, Idaho. Ken Amos, I'm near Maryland and the PA line. Butch Desco is from Wisconsin. These are the flyover states right there. So, and John, our director extraordinaire, is from Georgia, stuff like that. And Martin is from Australia, and one guy from England, a couple of guys from England, actually. We have Ron Bryce from Australia. So we're pretty out there. So Copenhagen Killer, please feel free to join in. You never know. You might local show and you go and you hook up with one of the guys and develop a friendship. I can tell you the first time we had Barry Roger, who used to be on, but now is Martin says, I'm from the end of the world. Well, you can see it from here. Flat Earth.
You can see it from space.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, Bill.
Sure. But, yeah, okay. I just want to say that it's Big Dave BNSF N-Scale says, hey, Butch was living in southeast Wisconsin until 2 years ago. What is it that you'd like to discuss there?
Yeah, I would. I'd like to discuss a little bit about eyes, our eyes. We use them a lot in the hobby, and because I have problems with mine that I've ran across that can help. And if you're having eye problems, go to your eye doctor. I know most men, we don't like going to the doctor, but it's worth it. And the glasses that I'm wearing are a specific designed distant and set for each eye, because I have two different visions in each eye. But the focal point on these glasses is right here. Not here, not here. It's right here.
Okay.
And because of my condition, a simple pair of like reader glasses or standard glasses really doesn't help. But something my doctor told me that I should be doing, and it was using a lubricant eye drop. Now, this is just some cheap brand that I got at Walgreens, but it's a lubricant. I don't know if Visine used to be what everybody used to use. This one's called Refresh, but you need a lubricant eye drop. And what this does is it keeps your eye moist, because what happens is you get your paintbrush, and let's say you've got one of those optivisors on, because I've got one of them too, and you're sitting there and you're working and you're painting on something really delicate, and you want to make sure you get full coverage, and then you move on to another piece. Let's say you're doing hand railing and you're doing it, you're not blinking during that time. You're so focused and seeing on what you're doing, making sure that you're not getting paint on something else. You're not blinking like you should. This eye drop helps your eye from drying out in between that time.
Mm-hmm.
And having dry eyes can actually damage your eyes, because your inside of your eyelid starts to get dry. The surface of your eye is dry. And when you're blinking, it's kind of like sandpaper on sandpaper, You can actually, that's why some people get older people get cataracts in their eyes, because their eyes have been dry and they've over so many years that they've damaged their eye. But that was something that I wanted to bring up, was that even if you don't have eye problems, you can get this product. It's not that expensive. And if you notice that you're not blanking, blank, and then there's like exercises you can do, every day. You can like roll your eyes around and look to the right, look to the left, and do all these things. You need to take care of your eyes, because
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
it's hard to do model railroading if your eyes are messed up.
This is very true, Phil. Very true.
And
Very true.
but there's people in our hobby that are worse than me. I seen a episode on Train Masters. I believe it was Train Masters, that there was a guy. He had the lower right hand corner of his eye. That was the only spot that was focally focused on in his eye, and he still model railroad and did a pretty darn good job too of doing it. He was doing DCC and installs and like a hobby shop or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's an absolute great tip. And men's health is very important. And to do that, even if you don't have an eye problem, you should have the eye drops if you're going to do detailed work, just to put them in prior to you working or after.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And stuff like that. And for you, us older guys, I'm big on this too. So since we're handing out medical, I'm big on this. Anybody that's 50 years and older, colonoscopy done. Get a colonoscopy done. I know you guys are out there saying I ain't letting nobody in the back door. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd rather die of embarrassment than die of colon cancer. All right? It's a preventative measure, and you guys should get out there and do it, because we want you guys around for a long, long time. Long, long time. And you got to take, we're getting older. I notice it myself. My knees are shot, and I can't get down on this layout like I used to underneath it to do it. I'm going to have to hire somebody to come in and do it, but that will be when that happens. We'll see. But seriously, let's take care of our health. I think that Phil makes a good point. Eye health is important, because that's what keeps us going. That's what keeps us wanting to move forward. Once you lose that motivation, if you're not feeling well, or, Phil is a perfect example of fortitude.
Yeah, I was less than 24 hours away from probably dying when a friend took me into ER. I didn't even know I was sick. I had blood tests done, a standard blood work for diabetes. And they found out from that my kidneys had shut down. And I was just, like, say, a matter of a day from passing on.
Exactly.
And within 24 hours, I had a chest catheter, and I was into dialysis. And I really thought the end was near. I mean, there's people that have lived for years on dialysis, but after a year going every 3 days, 3 times a week, going to dialysis and spending half your day there while they filter your blood, and then come back home and sleep and then feel good for a day and then have to redo it again. But if you go 3 days, you feel like crap.
Yeah, we have what we had Gary Corbin on, and Gary is presently going through the same thing of dialysis, and it wipes him out when he comes home. So it's important for us guys, men, to take care of ourselves, because I know we get into that big whatever it is, that mythical man myth. I'm all right. I don't want to know what's going on, because if I know what's going on, that's a bunch of hooey malooey.
Yeah.
Go to the doctor, get yourself checked, your blood pressure at least, your heart rate, stuff like that, because you enjoy what you're doing. There's a satisfaction in model railroading. You're the tool. Not meaning you're the tool like a knucklehead, but you're a tool too. you got to keep the tool fine-tuned. We spend time on our hobby, we do this, that, but we neglect the other half. Yeah, I know. But you're a tool. I'm not calling, let's get something straight. I am not calling anybody out there a tool. Okay? Not what I implied. Please send all letters, emails to John Mitchell. Okay? They'll sort it out. I didn't mean
Yep.
you. I'm just saying on my little rant here that Phil is absolutely right. And if you don't take care of yourself and you do get sick, I mean, guys like Gary Corbin, they could have just thrown it all, they could have just like said, that's it, I'm done, and wait for the Grim Reaper to show up. But
Right.
here they are, plowing along. They put their hands to the plow, and they're let's get going. Get busy living or get busy dying, brothers.
There's something very satisfying about working on something and completing it. And if you're happy with it, that's even better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, go ahead, Phil. I'm sorry.
I was just to say that it's great to get a compliment, and it makes you feel good about somebody else appreciates what I've done. But it's out there in the hobby for people to do. There's a little bit of everything. I mean, you have to be a carpenter, an electrician, kind of almost like a drywaller, because some people use plaster or something. You have use all kinds of tools that you got to use, and I'm not a master of anything. I stumble through stuff, and electrical's probably, I feel that I can scenery up a layout pretty good, and I can paint little happy clouds. But boy, when it comes to doing wiring, that's a whole nother ball game for this guy.
Yeah.
But you still have to know it. So it's like a multiple, skill set to be able to do the hobby. And just about everybody that I've met can do it. It's a lot of it's just, if you can hammer a nail, use a staple gun, you can you can pretty much do this hobby.
When someone comes in, I leave a screwdriver on the workbench. That comes in and they say, "Hey, I'd like to work on the layout." I said, "Absolutely," and I put a screwdriver on the bench, and I go, "Can you hand me that screwdriver?" And if they pick it up with the wrong end of it, I say, "You know what? I gotta go, and I'm sorry, but we can't work on this because we gotta leave." But if the guy picks it up properly, I'm like, "Okay, this guy knows which end of the screwdriver." So it's always that test. That's my test. Anyway, Dwight of Northern Star says, famous last words, I'm going to die from something anyway. This may be true, but it depends on how you're going to do it. I want to die in my wife's arms when I'm 135 years old, and you guys can come identify the body and say, yep, I know that guy. He used to be on model railroading line. Andy Crawford says, this is the third time today I've been called a tool. But I don't listen to the wife anyway. And
Right.
again, that's what I said. The only measuring stick is if you are enjoying your hobby, that's it. Any other accolades are fine and appreciated. So as long as I'm happy with the results, I'm happy. Hunter Purdue said he found out how to change my name. Okay. I just went through double hernia operation, but tests leading up to a diagnosis showed I have a prostate cancer. I'm only 58, still healing hernia surgery and awaiting prostate treatment. You know something, Ken? You're going to be all right. I'm telling you, if they got it in time, you're going to be fine. I'm going to put you on my prayer list, brother. Whether you believe it or not, I'm going to put you on the prayer list. Hello, this sounds good. Anyway, Phil, that's the questions. I want to thank you for being on, Phil. I really do. And I'm glad that it was sooner than later. and it's always nice seeing you in the room and on the chat and talking to you on the phone. It's always great. You have great insight on the hobby and great insight in life as well. And it's just so fun having you on. And thanks so much for being a part of this. I we greatly appreciate your endeavors and in your hobby. And you do bring a lot to the hobby of model railroading itself. So thank you very much for being on.
Oh, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that's kind words. And yeah, I always enjoy coming in and talking to you. The next time, maybe I'll have something new to show you. I'll actually make a decision on what I'm doing,
Well,
how I'm gonna proceed in this next adventure and
yes,
model railroading.
let us know because we'd love to have you on in the process of you building it up and putting it together. Nice words. I hope that's all right. Did the checks in the mail for those nice words? Because you said you were gonna comment. Video. Hello, Phil. You there?
I'm here. I did not catch what you said.
Oh, okay.
Which was probably a good thing.
Ken Amos says he thinks they think they won't know till November about it, but do believe it quarter early. Thank you for a great show tonight. You're quite welcome, Ken, and thank you for being a part of it. And thank you guys for being out there. And tomorrow night's Thursday, and you know what tomorrow night, Thursday being, it's Johnny's Train Talk Show. So Copenhagen Killer, if you're out there listening right now and you didn't shut down, tomorrow night you can be a part of that show, just like we're doing right here. And you can, if you have any questions or anything, and just to make friends, Johnny's Train Talk Show. And it's kind of like good old family home style, down south, southern hospitality. You just mosey on into the general store down there and sit down and mosey on up to the check and grab yourself a cold soda pop out of the canister there. Yeah, if you got a webcam, you can be on the panel too. See, like if we were doing this in New York, we'd be outside in front of a bodega playing phones. That's dominoes. We'd be slamming them down and talking railroad. Y'all meet them. But anyway, tomorrow is Thursday night, Johnny's Train Room, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Whatever the other time zones in the rest of the United States, we don't know. Join in tomorrow, Thursday. And again, Phil, thank you so very, very much for being a part of this. It was good to touch base with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the rest of you guys out there, you take care. God bless. Have a blessed day tomorrow, and we will see you on the radio.